How's it going, everybody? Welcome into the Skyline Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Hartman, joined as always by my good friend, my co-host from the West Coast, Nick Normand. Nick, how you doing today, man?
Doing well, doing well. Coming off of a nice long 3 day weekend that I was able to spend away traveling with some friends, doing a little bachelorette trip to celebrate them to be married in the next couple months.
Oh,
Shout
cool.
out to Luke and Elise, man. Love celebrating them. Just really stoked for them, man. I got to spend it in Joshua Tree. Really just a great time traveling with friends and spending time together. How are you doing, Jack?
Yeah, doing all right. It's starting to get warmer finally here. We had 17 straight days where it was below freezing. And so it's been warmer this week. A lot of snow's been melting. We're actually under a flood watch because there's going to be thunderstorms tonight that are going to come with lots of rain, and also all of the 18 inches of snow that came a couple weeks ago is finally all melting, and so there's actually some risk for some floods, which you do not see here in central Pennsylvania very often. But yeah, no, doing well, sleeping when I can with the new baby being around, and doing everything to adjust and get comfortable that way. And yeah, we're doing well. It's a good time. We're really blessed right now, and so yeah, it's been good. But I'm really happy that we're getting to take some time here to talk football. The off season has commenced. We are in it right now, and so that means that you and I get to be a little bit more creative about some of the stuff that we talk about, which is always fun. Um, and so we're going to start off today doing Immaculate Grid, just because that's also always a fun time. The off season we get to play more games, stuff like that. And so it'll be fun to hop right into this. You're muted.
Uh, I see so much Devonte Adams with this grid. Oh my goodness. Just all these sorts of teams. Packers, Raiders, Jets, Rams aren't on here, but 10 plus receiving touchdowns is also a very Devontae Adams stat.
It's true.
He fits a lot of these categories. I'm also seeing my mind pops to George Fant for Jet and Seahawk. Kind of niche offensive lineman, backup tackle that's got some starting time. I think I'm going to rip him.
Yeah, do it.
He's active, but
Very nice.
that's a good one.
What about Randall Cobb for Packers and Jets?
Oh yeah, Cobb was Cobb a Jet?
Mm-hmm.
Did they bring him in?
They
Yeah,
did.
11%. That'll do. Hmm. What about for Packer and Bill? Is it Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer that was? I think it was Micah Hyde that was both of these.
That
I know one
sounds
of the Bills.
right.
That might be a higher percentage though. That might be. Tyrell Shavers wasn't a Packer. There was a receiver who fits both of these. I feel like though. Where else? Are there any funky quarterbacks? Ryan Fitzpatrick fits both of the top, but none of the side, sadly. For 10 plus receiving touchdowns, Steve Largent for the Jimmy Graham. Did Jimmy Graham have 10 plus receiving touchdowns as a Seahawk? I think he might have.
Maybe.
Because he was still balling out late in his career.
I'm
Or
sure
late.
Doug Baldwin did.
Doug Baldwin's
Um,
out, I think.
I don't think Jermaine Curse did. He may
No.
have, but that would be surprising.
I think Lockett might have 1 year, but
Lockett probably did.
maybe. Go away, ad. Bill and Raider. Are there any quarterbacks that fit here? Geno Smith. He's going to be a high percentage, but
Yeah, well, so like, is there? I don't know if there's something better. Um,
Trubisky, Tyrod Taylor. Did Tyrod Taylor play for any of these side teams? I'm trying to think Bills and something.
I don't think so.
JP Lossman, I don't think. Trubisky, no. Drew Lock wasn't on the Bills. He's still on the Seahawks.
Did Nathan Peterman at one point get picked up by the
Oh,
Raiders?
he did. That's for sure
Well,
right.
hold on. Was he ever on the active roster?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Because John Gruden loved Nathan Peterman. Loved him. Loved him. Loved
I don't know
him.
why.
I,
Man, what a pull. I didn't think I
yeah,
didn't that came out of nowhere.
that's a good shout for sure.
Okay.
Josh Allen I know Josh Allen was backed up at one point, I'm pretty sure, by Kyle Allen, or what was the other Allen? There was Josh Allen, Kyle Allen, and do you remember the same week there were 3 Allens starting in the NFL?
No.
Josh Allen, Kyle Allen, and another Allen. I'm trying to remember. Darnold also obvious Seahawk Jet. That probably would have been an insanely high percentage.
Yeah. Hey, did Jamal Adams ever have a stint with the Raiders?
Yeah, he's a current Raider.
Okay, that would work for Jets Raiders. I
like
would
that.
imagine a lot of people put him at Jets Seahawks, so that probably isn't going to be that.
7%. That's good. Bills, Seahawks, Marshawn Lynch.
Dude, that's probably going to be like 80%.
It's gonna be very high. But the thing is, I feel like people don't think Marshawn Lynch with the Bills. Like, I think they think him with the Seahawks first, and then him with the Raiders second. I mean, people probably. I feel like there have been a couple running backs, if we're real, that fit this spot. Have there been any defenders? Leonard Williams also fits that spot. Who's Bobby Wagner? No. This one, I think I'm going to just put Micah Hyde.
Okay.
Because I'm 99% sure it was Hyde and not Poyer. 25, that's high, but that's fine.
Yeah. All right. Let's try to come up with some of these obscure receiving touchdown ones.
Yeah.
Did Jerry Rice have 10 when he was with the Seahawks? There's no way.
No. Steve Largent's too obvious because he's old, but like he was an amazing receiver for the Seahawks. I feel like Doug Baldwin, Steve Largent, Jimmy Graham. What was his name? There was a dude on the 05 Seahawks who was good, but I don't know if he got 10 touchdowns receiving. Were there any other DK? DK had 10 with the Seahawks for
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
Golden Tate?
I don't think Golden Tate ever had 10. I don't think. He was good, but he was better on the Lions than the Seahawks.
Yeah. I feel like I like Doug Baldwin.
Yeah, I like Baldwin as well.
Nice.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, so Devontae Adams is the obvious one with the Packers. Greg Jennings, maybe.
Jennings. Donald Driver.
Sterling Sharp.
Sterling Sharp is a good one, too. Like, he's the best of the bunch, but, like, he was, like, so good. I like Sterling Sharp just for the respect.
I feel like it's a little more obscure.
But I think, like, the respect, we got to give him some respect for sure. 12%.
Oh, dang. They don't even give him the respect of having his photo.
Disrespectful. Okay. Bowers, I think, had 10. Devontae Adams. I don't think Michael Crabtree had 10.
I don't think Amari Cooper ever did.
I don't think so either. Go away again, Ad. Jerry Rice might have had 10. Old Jerry Rice on the Raiders might have. But that's, I think that
Randy Moss.
Moss is a good bet too. I like that. Randy. No.
No!
We might try overtime. We'll see. One guess left.
Really? Okay, well let's do Bowers there, I guess. Well,
Yeah.
I guess here's what we need to ask. Is Bowers there more obvious or less obvious than Marshawn with Seattle and Buffalo?
I think Marshawn, they're both really obvious. I would rather. Receiving touchdowns for the Raiders. It was Amari Cooper and a lot of nobody. It was Michael Crabtree, Tim Brown. I don't think people give Tim Brown the respect. He's a 90s receiver. I think Tim Brown would actually be the lowest of all these if we're
No
real.
shot.
48. Still keep guessing. We can just put Marshawn and just.
I guarantee you it's going to be high.
It's going to be insanely high. 73.
P. Yeah.
Okay, let's see our later. Go away, ads. Silly ads. Okay. So let's see. Go into Pro Football Reference.
56 who could have fit there.
Okay, quarterbacks that are nobodies. No, CJ Spiller. CJ Spiller was a Seahawk, apparently. I knew he was a Bill, obviously. Fred Jackson, Percy Harvin. I don't remember what the Bills at all.
Neither do I. I remember him with Minnesota mostly, and
yeah. Any other recent dudes? Tyrell Dodson. I don't know of him as a Seahawk, but I know he was a Bill. Jason Peters. Yes, he did. He started his career with the Bills. I don't remember him as a Seahawk, but he started his career before he became like legit like that.
Yeah.
Ford, yep. Quentin Jefferson, yep. And then look at the gap, though. It's like 2018, 2022, and then like big gap, I feel like there. Let's see any other recent dudes. Harvin, no. Any other good players? Lynch, obviously, and a lot of Steven Hauschka. Yep. Not a ton. There were some dudes. We could have definitely done better on that one. Then let's see. The other one we were banking on was Raiders and touchdowns. Only 11 dudes there as options. Let's see it. Tay Adams, Tim Brown, Art Powell, Bolitnikoff, yeah. Branch, yeah. Casper. Old tight ends for sure. For sure we could have gone with some old tight ends. But there was no Jerry Rice, no Randy Moss. It was Tay Adams, big gap, Tim Brown, and a lot of those dudes. Art Powell I've never even heard of, but look at that. 63, 64, 65, 66. 10-plus receiving touchdowns 4 straight years.
That's impressive, especially back then. Like, the ball was not getting thrown.
1,300 yards in back-to-back seasons in the old AFL. Got to put some respect.
Dang.
Yeah. So for Immaculate Grid, I feel like we did okay.
Scroll down. I want to see what the most popular answers were.
Lynch, Hyde, Cooper, Tay Adams, Aaron Rodgers, Darnold.
Okay. Only 2 of the most popular ones isn't bad.
Yeah, that's not too
bad. Especially since one of them was only 25%. Like, that's not that high.
Yeah. For sure.
Solid.
Felt good about it. Do we want to go into NFL Wordle now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. There we go. So let's make sure we got the... I'm assuming it's just offensive players. Let's check. 6 categories or fewer. Doesn't say. I guess we'll just have to... I only see offensive players here, so I assume only offensive dudes.
All right, let's hit a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. What
Let's do.
about what's the most random receiver we can think of? Current receiver. Mm,
Kayshawn
Kyle.
Moody.
Yeah, I was thinking Kyle Williams. We were both thinking Hey, Sean. Wide receiver. Super
Does
Bowl
not
ring.
have a Super Bowl. Is
The AFC, but not the AFC East. Older than 23. Fewer than 6 receiving touchdowns. Okay. So an AFC dude. We can try and think of a middle-aged AFC dude.
well, I think because it's yellow, that means it's like within 2 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So like
So probably
24, 25.
mm-hmm, right. An AFC
Um,
West or an AFC North dude.
what about Brian Thomas Jr.?
He's too young. Brian Thomas Jr. is like 23 as well, I think.
Okay.
Because
Well, I mean, if he's 24, then
I
that's
don't think he
within.
is, though. I
Okay.
think he's like, because he came in at like 21 and has only been in the league 2 years. I don't think there's a shot he's
Right.
24.
Right.
What about,
Uh,
I
Jerry
was
Judy,
thinking,
or do you think he's too old?
I was thinking Zay Flowers.
Yeah, he played all 4 years at Boston College. Okay,
25
25 is the
years
right
old,
age.
even fewer receiving touchdowns, not in the AFC North. So AFC South or West, a Jag, a Titan. The Titans, I don't even know who the Titans have.
Michael Pittman.
Pittman's too old. He's not 25. Um, Alec Pierce is too old. I was thinking, where does Nick Westbrook Akina play now?
Last he played for the Titans. He's not in the
No
league,
team. No.
and he's
Oh,
way too old.
he's old. Wow, I didn't know he was that old. Dang. That was a
Um,
terrible guess by me, clearly.
okay.
No information. Oh my goodness. AFC West, a Charger, Lad McConkey. I don't think he's
No,
quite
he'll be. He's
five.
not old enough.
Yeah. Charger, Raider,
Mike
Besh,
Williams is going to be too old.
way too old. Yeah.
Josh Palmer, I don't think he's with the
He's with the
Chargers
Bills.
anymore.
Yeah, he's with the Bills. Titans,
Um,
Jaguars, Colts, Alec Pierce. I think Alec Pierce isn't a bad guess.
okay.
In the AFC South,
Okay.
25. Wow, it really wasn't a bad guess. I thought he was a bit older. Okay. So not a Colt.
25-year-old in the AFC South. How old is Calvin Ridley?
Old. He's way too old. Way,
I
way,
don't know.
way.
I always forget because he went to jail and then, or I don't know if
Yeah,
he went to
it's
jail, but he got suspended.
suspended.
So,
Yeah. Jaguars,
um,
Titans, Colt, or not Jaguars, Titans,
I
Colts,
couldn't even tell you a single wide receiver on the Titans this
Texans.
last year.
Texans. Could it be Tank Dell? Could be Tank Dell.
Well, he's definitely had less than 6 receiving touchdowns this last year.
It's a Houston dude. It's a Houston guy.
Okay.
Nico Collins is too old, I believe. Nico Collins, Tank Dell,
Stephon
Christian
Diggs is too old. Oh,
Wanda.
and he was in New England this last year anyway. That's my bad.
Yeah. It's not Nico. I don't think it's Nico. What's the name of their rookie? Their rookie probably isn't 25, but he is older. Who was out of Iowa State? The tall Jaden.
No,
They drafted Jalen Knoll, and Jaden Higgins. I don't think either of those dudes
no,
are.
they won't be old enough.
Are we gonna have to go like 6 or 7 dudes deep to pull this?
Probably.
I think so. I think Noel Higgins, or maybe just rip Nico.
Yeah,
I guess Nico Collins. No,
just barely
26.
too old.
Uh,
And this guy had less than 4 receiving touchdowns.
Noel, he was a rookie.
I don't like that.
I don't
I
either.
don't think he's old enough. I don't think either of them are old enough.
It's either Christian Kirk, Noel, or Jaden Higgins, I would think, because that's five deep.
I would hit
Noel,
Christian Kirk then.
yeah, but Kirk's too old, but why not? Yeah, we're
Are we on our last
struggling. We
guess?
got one more guess.
There's got to be somebody that we're forgetting.
Yeah. Kirk, Collins,
Is there
Dell.
someone that like they brought off of a practice squad when all their guys started going down?
It wasn't this last year. The year before, they did the Deontay Johnson thing and then cut him, but
Right.
not that. I don't know who CJ was throwing the ball to besides the other team at the end of the year.
Oof.
Like,
That's brutal.
I mean, it's true, but it is brutal.
That's so
I think
brutal.
I think we got to go with one of the rookies, which is kind of crazy. Because I'm racking my brain and I can't think of who else. I'm gonna go with Noel because I don't think Higgins was that old. Well,
Who
so
was it?
will it give us the answer? I don't see how it's given us the answer. Xavier Hutchinson. Okay. I do know of him. Another Iowa State dude who also isn't good. I don't like any of the Iowa State dudes that the Texans have drafted, but this is like their number 5 or 6 receiver. I did forget him. I don't think he's good at football. I think he's okay as like your number 6 receiver, but man, I don't feel bad about missing him if we're honest.
Hey, we got to Houston receivers rather quick.
We did. We did.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, let's talk through some head coaching changes this year. Um, there were a lot. There were 10 teams that hired new head coaches this year. 9 of them fired their head coach. The 10th, Mike Tomlin left his position on his own accord. If you listen to the right talking heads, they'll tell you that's not what happened. But as far as we know, he left on his own accord. So, which means there were a lot of new head coaching hires. Just to run through them really quick. The Ravens hired Jesse Minter. The Steelers hired Mike McCarthy. Browns hired Todd Monken. Bills hired Joe Brady. Dolphins Jeff Hafley. Titans Robert Saleh. Raiders Clint Kubiak. Giants John Harbaugh. Falcons Kevin Stefanski. And Cardinals Mike LaFleur. Yeah, so there are a lot of new head coaches going into the NFL this next year. I mean, this is seriously like a third of the league having new head coaches. We thought last year there were a lot of new head coaches, and it was nothing compared to this. Within the last 2 years, half of the league has fired and hired a new head coach, which is just unreal when you think about it. So that said, Nick, let's just sort of we'll go through like our favorite hire and our least favorite hire later, but first let's go through which position, which of these new head coaches is stepping into the best possible situation for them. Who do you think is set up for the most success right now?
I think there are a clear 2 dudes that I think are set up for a ton of success. Those would be the 2 dudes that are getting MVP quarterbacks, that being Jesse Minter for the Ravens and Joe Brady for the Bills. I just think when we're talking about dudes that are familiar with the organization they're walking into, they are proven dudes that have both been coordinators at a really high level in the NFL. They're dudes that have MVP caliber quarterbacks and teams that are deep in a lot of ways and have a lot of talent on the rosters. They're both teams that, for the better part of the last 10 years have been very, very competent and
Mm.
very stable. And I think that that stability, the quarterback position, the talent overall on the entire team, even outside of the quarterback position, is much higher than a ton of other teams that got rid of their head coach and got a new one. So I just think that the floor for both of these dudes is so high as far as the situations they're walking into. Or if either of these teams won fewer than 10 games, I think I'd be pretty surprised. I think that like 10 games is the expectation, if not higher, for both of these teams going into this season. And that being the floor, I think just shows how good of a situation it is, not necessarily how great the candidates were. I think the candidates are good in Joe Brady being a good coordinator for the Bills and Jesse Minter being a great coordinator for the Chargers and previously Michigan. But I just think the situation's set up for success right now. Maybe not win a Super Bowl immediately because we've been expecting these teams to win a Super Bowl, but I think that the floor is very high for them in the situations they're walking into as head coaches.
I think both of those are really good picks. My pick I is my pick is surprising. Okay, but I'll explain it. It's a hear me out, type of answer. And I'm gonna go with Clint Kubiak. And the reason I'm gonna go with Clint Kubiak is because he is walking in with the number one overall pick that he will be able to get Fernando Mendoza with. He is walking into a situation where he has probably a top five pass rusher in the NFL who wants out, and they will be able to get a king's ransom for him if they trade him, which I think they should trade him. And I think they will trade him. I don't think that'll end with him, staying with Vegas. They also have a large amount of cap space that they can use to go out into free agency this year. He is an offensive minded head coach that is coming into a team that has some really great weapons on the offensive side of the ball in Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. Um, and they were so bad, that pretty much the only way is up, and like he could have a 4-win season and that'll be a successful first year for him because of how bad that team was last year and has been. um Obviously the biggest thing that hurts him is that he is in the AFC West. Both the Chargers and the Broncos made the playoffs this past year, and when Patrick Mahomes comes back from injury, he's Patrick Mahomes. But that said, Patrick Mahomes did not look like Patrick Mahomes last year before he got injured. So, who knows where the status of the Chiefs will be moving forward. But still, he's in a certainly, you know, probably the most competitive division in the AFC. So, that does make it hard. But I like I like some of the stuff that he's stepping into. Like for a lot of guys that are taking the job, of a team that wins one game, or two games or whatever, it's like they're like strip it all the way down to the studs. Like there's nothing left worth keeping. Not even strip it down to the studs. Tear the whole house down. With this, I think there are some pieces there that it's like, no, we can strip this down to the studs. We foundation is secure enough. We have good walls here. We just need to, we need to really find, get a lot of crap out and rebuild this thing. um and I like the idea of being able to build around a young, offensive side of the ball in Fernando Mendoza, Ashton Genty, and Brock Bowers. On top of that, I felt like they were wise around the trade deadline with, dealing Jacoby Myers and getting some draft capital for him. Again, I think that they will trade Max Crosby, and as a Lions fan, I'm begging them to trade it, whatever it takes to get him, two first round picks and whatever else, like whatever they want, do it. And so they'll get a king's ransom for him, and they'll be able to, one, get him off the books in that trade, which will give them even more cap space, and two, have high value picks that they can either use to package to get even higher value picks or just be able to, draft some really, really talented guys. And so I like what Clint Kubiak is stepping into. I think that he's probably the most mature, and while also being the best football mind that that team has had in a while. Don't get me wrong, Pete Carroll is a legend, but he was well past his prime, when he took that job last year. Before that, I mean, Josh McDaniels, he's just the only thing that he's good at is being the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Like literally, that's it. Everything else he tries to do coaching in the NFL fails miserably. There have been some other guys that it just has not been good. I think that this is actually one of the best hires that they've had in a very very long time, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
I agree with you there a lot. I think Clint Kubiak's actually stepping into a really fun situation. I'm really curious about the general manager and how they select the pieces around Mendoza in this draft and how they attack free agency. Just because I think that Ashton Genty obviously was a great college player and was a high draft pick. But if you look back, Armand Membu, who was drafted one pick later to the Jets at offensive tackle and played great at offensive tackle for the Jets, he could have just been a plug and play tackle for this Raiders team. And then this Raiders team, with all this draft capital, could say, for example, have gotten a Kenneth Walker in this free agency cycle. And it's just so hard to get offensive line play that's elite, let alone like in free agency. In the draft, it's hard to get. But when they had that high of a pick going running back, when they did have the offensive tackles on the board, is kind of hard to stomach. But I think that the Raiders need to aggressively pursue building up the offensive line this season. I think that in free agency, they need to do what the Patriots did, which was throw a ton of assets, whether it's draft or free agent money, at the offensive line. Will Campbell, although he obviously struggled a ton in the Super Bowl, was really good in the run game for the better part of the year, and I think can be a really good guard for that team. I think that the sheer number of dudes they signed in free agency last year who started and played pretty well for the better part of this season helped this Patriots team to reach a floor that they didn't have before. And I think that the Raiders, to be able to get not disaster Fernando Mendoza, need to have at least a competent offensive line. And they don't have that right now. So I'm hoping that Clint Kubiak and the general manager are on the same page about building up that offensive line, like they were able to do in Seattle this last year with Gray Zabel coming in and playing a pivotal part at guard for a Super Bowl champion team when the other guard spot wasn't great in I'm blanking on his name, but Zabel was awesome and they ran to his side a ton and they built out a great run game in spots that really complemented their offense with Sam Darnold passing the ball. And I think that Clint Kubiak really needs to try and build out that same sort of offense for Fernando Mendoza because I think him and Sam Darnold can do similar stuff. I think that Fernando Mendoza can potentially pick apart defenses better than Sam Darnold. And so that should be able to make it even easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the Raiders do have pieces that I like you're saying, Max Crosby, Genty, Bowers. I think that they have a good bit of talent all over the place that can really help where you see a team like the Titans, where it's literally Cam Ward, Jeffrey Simmons, and nobody. Like there is nobody else on that team that can play meaningful, like great football at this point. They have so much to do. But this Raiders team, for sure, I agree with you. And Clint Kubiak, I think, has gotten a little underrated in some circles where I'm like, man, I think he called a great Super Bowl. I think he called a great season for the Seahawks overall, utilizing JSN in the way that he did to be able to get the most out of him that you could, and utilizing him in creative ways, running routes out of the backfield. If you see the chart of JSN's route tree for the entire year, it's literally green the entire field because they used him everywhere and he ran everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
you need to do that with a Brock Bowers or whoever your staple wide receiver is going to be with this Raiders team. I think Clint Kubiak's going to be able to do that for this team. So I hope that he keeps calling plays. I hope that he brings that creativity that he had with Seattle to this Raiders team.
Definitely. Nick, who do you think is stepping into the worst position going into this next season?
Man, I think that there are two that are, I think there are three that are really bad. I'm going to shout out Mike LaFleur and the Cardinals, man. I think that Kyler Murray, maybe you hold on to him one more year. I put the prediction, as you remember, about the Cardinals taking a massive dead cap hit and the Dolphins taking a massive dead cap hit. The reports are coming out that the Dolphins are getting ready to take that massive dead cap hit. But the Cardinals, it feel like, might hold on one more year. But man, this Cardinals team, like, they're not good. Mike LaFleur, it feels like, was he's a Sean McVay dude, but like, I don't know that anybody else wanted that job with the Cardinals. I don't know that there's a ton of talent where like Marvin Harrison Jr. has looked like a bust. Michael Wilson has been good, but he was a fourth round pick. Like Trey McBride's really good, but besides that, like who's their defensive player? Who's a stud? Their offensive line's been decent. Like I just think that Kyler Murray is kind of an anchor to this team right now, but he might be an anchor that like is the only reason they're not awful this next year if they keep him. They could be bad with him. They could be awful without him this next year. I don't know what they do. I just
Mhm.
don't know what Mike LaFleur and this Cardinals team do.
Yeah, I feel for him, but the place that I feel worst for is Jeff Hafley in Miami.
Mm,
Um, they, like you mentioned, they're in a similar situation with Tua. They've already made some decisions. They cut Tyreek Hill, they cut Bradley Chubb, and he's walking into what's really a mess. The reports about the Dolphins organization, under Mike McDaniel were really, really bad. Like guys were not coming to team meetings or practice, and or they were showing up late, and there was you know, uh, no consequences for that. And just I'm concerned about how bad the situation is in that locker room, let alone the low amount of money that they have, let alone the low amount of talent that they have, let alone, that they are in a division with Josh Allen and Drake May. Like there's a lot of stuff about that Dolphins job that I would not want to be signing myself up for. Um, I think Jeff Hafley is a really, really good coach. I think that he will finally get them a strong competitive defense for the first time, it feels like, in a long time. Um, what they do on the offensive side of the ball, I'm giving him a year basically where I'm like, I don't care what the offense looks like this year because again, there's a lot of work to do. Um, you know, in the 2027 season, that's when I'll start to judge him based on what the offense looks like. Um, but yeah, I would not want to be him. Um, at least there's a little bit of fun youth with the Cardinals and some bright spots. Like you do have Marvin Harrison Jr. You do have, like you said, Trey McBride. On the defensive side of the ball, Will Johnson. He ended up being a steal where they got him. And stuff like that. That when I look at the Dolphins, I'm like, who is the guy that you can like convince yourself, okay, well at least he has this guy, like Jalen Waddle maybe, but he's kind of really sort of felt,
HN at running back, HN.
yeah,
Like,
HN, yeah, but not, I don't know, those guys don't make me feel as excited as McBride, Johnson, um, so anyway, I think again, it's 6 to 1, a half a dozen to the other. I feel like with both of those spots. Um, of course, we could throw the Robert Saleh and the Titans job into the mix as well as being a really really rough place to be. So, all
mm,
right. Well, now that we've talked about the situations that these coaches are stepping into a little bit, Nick, who do you think is the worst hire among the hires this offseason? We'll do worst first, and then
mm,
we'll end with best hires.
mm, mm. I think that it's probably the Browns and Todd Monken. Like Todd Monken, I don't think's a, an objectively terrible coach at all levels of football, but I think that Todd Monken has been an underachiever in a lot of ways as an offensive coordinator, and the Browns' dysfunction just adding into that. Where Todd Monken was an offensive coordinator for a number of good teams with this Chargers team and with the Ravens before that. But I think that the dysfunction of the Browns to say, we're hiring Todd Monken to be our head coach, we're putting all of our head coaches through the ringer, and we're also disenfranchising Jim Schwartz as our defensive coordinator by passing over him. and just the dysfunction with that entire situation, just to me means that Todd Monken, I feel like, is in a terrible spot where, like, I just think that with the offense that devoid of talent, with him either having to manage the entire team and give up offensive coordination to somebody else, or him having to keep offensive coordination of that bad of an offense, like it just seems like he's in a bad spot. He's set up to fail, but also like, why did he get this job? It doesn't seem like people wanted this Browns job at all. And like Jim Schwartz, it didn't seem like will be an amazing fit, but like he was in house and really good as a DC. Like, man, I just think that Monken, like, I don't see the excitement with him either. Like, this just feels like this is going to be a disappointment incarnate in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I did not like the Monken hire. Like you said, I echo everything that you said about what happened with Jim Schwartz and all of that. Um, I think well, when we get to who I think was the worst hire, it'll feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth compared to what I'm about to say. But I think that in this case, hiring Jim Schwartz would have been the right move because he had had so much success. He had turned around, you know, yes, the offense was still really bad, but he had turned around the defense, and so when you turn around entirely one of the worst units on the worst teams in football to be one of the best units in football, like you deserve your laurels, your flowers for that. And for him to not get it was rough. I don't I When I look at Todd Monken, when I look at the Baltimore Ravens offense, with Lamar Jackson as quarterback, what I see success, and then when it gets to crunch time, failure. And failure that is related to bad decision making by coaching. I think about the AFC Championship game. The when Lamar Jackson finally got to the AFC Championship game, they had Derrick Henry, and they just did not hand the football off at all in the second half. They didn't run the football at all in the second. Didn't have they. I think they ran like less than five designed run plays in the second
Mm-hmm.
half of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Just stuff that it's like really, really dumb stuff. And, yes, John Harbaugh was the head coach, and I gave him flack for that. But also, Todd Monken was the offensive coordinator and the one calling the plays. So it's like I think about that stuff, and I think about, okay, if you hit a low ceiling with the talent that you had on the offensive side of the football in Baltimore, and then I look at what the offense looks like in Cleveland right now. I
Mm-hmm.
see no way that it's going to end up better, and I think it'll just kind of only end up worse. So I agree with you that Todd Monken was not the hire that I thought made the most sense for them. However, to me, the hire that was the worst was the Bills hiring Joe Brady,
Yep.
and the reason that I think that's the case is because. Um, you fired a very, very successful coach in Sean McDermott. And I understand that if you thought, listen, we've reached a ceiling and we can't seem to get through the ceiling, and so we need to make a change. I get that. However, then you go and just bring in the same guy who is already in the room, who is probably going to bring back a lot of the staff that you already have.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't see how that is going to do a good job of accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. Of, what, we need something fresh, we need something new. And it's like, you know okay, you got fresh and new, but it's the same thing, just younger, like, and not, it's not exactly the same thing in this case, but still, like, it just felt like, one, they made the decision late, so there were, other really good coaches that they could have had an opportunity at that they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, I mean, if you remember this interview process, like Philip Rivers at one point had an interview lined up for this job. Like, it just felt like the whole way they handled that situation was bad. On top of then the press conferences about, no, Brandon Bean has been great and he's gonna stay and we're gonna give him more power. That, like, oh, Keon Coleman has been a failure. You know, the owner's saying Keon Coleman has been a failure. And that was
Mhm.
because the last coach was the one who wanted to draft him. And then, of course, we're seeing these clips from, like inside the draft room, or inside the war room, at the Buffalo Bills, where Brandon Beane is like, oh, it's good that he ran a slow 40. That means he'll be available when we want him. Like stuff like this, that it's like, how have you won so many games so many years in a row and it seems like you so don't have it together behind the scenes. Um, and I think hiring Joe Brady, though, again, I think Joe Brady is a great coach, and I think he will be a great head coach. I just don't think he's the right head coach for the Buffalo Bills, considering everything that was surrounding them as the reasons that they were sharing that they were deciding to get a new head coach, and moving in that direction. It just didn't make sense to me.
Mhm. I get you. And my other thing is that, like, Joe Brady, it's more of the same, where the offense basically isn't going to change, is what it seems like. It's going to be more of the James Cook conservative run the ball, which has produced a lot of success. That's fine. But Sean McDermott kept the floor for the defense so incredibly high in the regular season for so many years, when it feels like they had good players around, they had solid players around. But, like, who've the Bills' best defenders been? Matt Milano, who's been banged up, like Trey White before he tore his knee up, left town, came back, shell of himself. Joey Bosa after so many injuries, like
Von
Greg
Miller,
Rousseau, Von Miller, who, like, it just feels like they're able to manufacture good defense, and that's because of Sean McDermott. And maybe there's not going to be as much of a fall off from the regular season to postseason for the defense now. But I think the regular season defense could just be bad now. And before, it was the regular season defense was really good, even if the run defense is bad. The pass defense is always great. And then in the playoffs, they've underachieved. But now I'm like, your defense might just be bad all around the entire year. Like, that's completely possible that you're scoring 38 points, but it's all shootouts. Like, it's completely on the table that, like, we just get completely shootout only Buffalo Bills this year. And that, I don't think that that's a recipe for success with your defense being potentially that bad.
and especially with the rise of the New England Patriots. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and despite what we saw in the Super Bowl, I attribute a lot of Drake May's deficiencies to Josh McDaniels doing a terrible job calling a game to help his young quarterback be successful. Um, like, the he Drake May is only going to get older and is only going to get more mature and is only going to get better. We talked so much about how New England gave him like no weapons on the outside this year. They will address that this year, right? Like Travion Henderson is only going to get better. Will Campbell is only going to get better. Another guy who looked really bad in the Super Bowl that Josh McDaniels did nothing to help whatsoever. Just left him on an island basically the whole game against the best defense in the NFL is just not going to lead to successful results. Um, but yeah, just a lot of stuff that like yeah, the Patriots are going to get better. They're not going to get worse. And by making this decision with Sean McDermott, I think you see, like you said, one whole side of your team get worse. Um, and yeah, I mean, stuff happened, like, and the Bills were unlucky a lot of times, and all sports like include luck. Like luck happens. And so yeah, there were a lot of times under Sean McDermott that the Bills were unlucky. And unfortunately, if you're going to be a head coach or a quarterback, in the NFL, there are going to be times that it's like we were unlucky in this situation and it's going to fall on your shoulders. And that sucks. And I think we saw that a little bit here with Sean McDermott as well. Um, and the decision the Bills made to fire him. So, all right, Nick, who did you think was the best hire of this cycle?
Let me just scroll through one last time looking at it. I, man, I think that the answer is probably Jesse Minter or John Harbaugh, the two dudes with the connections to the Ravens, one becoming Ravens head coach, one out as Ravens head coach. I just think that Jesse Minter, he comes from the same tree, obviously, as Mike McDonald, who just produced an amazing defense and a Super Bowl win for the Seahawks. And I just think that the variety of experience he had at Vanderbilt, at Michigan, at the Ravens, at the Chargers, and being able to produce high end defense at every single sort of level, whether it's the Chargers or in college or with the Ravens previously, I just think that that defense is clearly translatable, and that defense is something that people haven't been able to figure out. The Patriots were not able to figure it out. Stafford and the Rams were good against that defense, but like that defense still was really, really good against them. I just think that that particular scheme is going to be really, really effective for this Ravens team that needs that scheme and a teacher who's able to coach it. And I think that Lamar Jackson, as an offense unto himself, is going to be able to float an offense that still has Derrick Henry, still has Zay Flowers, still has Mark Andrews. We'll see about Likely if they retain him. They're going to build out the offensive line. They have stable ownership and GM play. Like, I just think that Minter is a really great fit. He knows the locker room and the culture, and I trust him. Like I like him a lot more than Joe Brady, and I like his situation more than I do Joe Brady's. And so I'm gonna go Minter.
Yeah, I think Minter is a good call. I think there is a chance that with Jesse Minter, we sort of get back to seeing the Ravens of old, which was, we will have an offense that will score enough points because we will have a defense that will just beat you to a pulp, and we'll do it effectively, and um, yeah, will not back down, and I think that that's what we'll see under Jesse Minter with the Ravens. Which that said, I think it'll take a little bit to see. Like they have focused a lot more on the offense lately in the off seasons, and so like they're gonna need to turn around, draft well, and stuff like that, on the defensive side of the ball. But I do think that that will be a hire that pays dividends. Um, I'm going to shock you with my call here.
Hmm.
I love the Mike McCarthy hire for the Steelers.
Oh boy, sell me on it.
I
I've warmed up to it, but sell me on this, please.
I think that when I watched the introductory press conference, the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy reminded me of when a college football program hires a head coach who, you know, was an alum and showed up, and it, very emotional, right? Really, I mean, you can tell that like they will truly give everything they have to that program, and to do whatever it takes. And that they experienced success with that team when they were a player, and they know what it takes to have success with that team, and they're going to do everything they can to make that happen. I feel like the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy can be similar to the Miami Hurricanes hiring Mario Cristobal, in
Hmm.
that he can come in there. It won't be easy. It's going to take some time. There's going to be, like there I it would not surprise me if this next year the Steelers are under 500. Like it would not, but will come in, with a longing and a desire to do everything it takes to make them better. Will come in with new ideas compared to what they're used to. Because the Steelers have been stuck in their ways. I love Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin deserves all the respect in the world. I think it is a travesty the way Steelers fans have treated him over the last 5 years or so. Longer, but really the last 5 years, I think it is so ridiculous and unfair. However, similar to when the Eagles decided to part ways with Andy Reid, like way back, and it was like, hey, you know what? We just we got to get somebody else in the room. We got to get a new perspective, right? And so I think Mike McCarthy will bring that. I think Mike McCarthy, I mean, like he has had so much success as a head coach. He only has one Super Bowl to his name, but three straight 12-win seasons with the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Hmm.
Like he got the best out of Dak Prescott that any head coach has gotten out of Dak Prescott.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, there are some really laughable moments in those super or in the playoffs, with stuff that happened, but still, like, I think that he can be there, that he can, get someone that can, really maintain this team better
Mhm.
than Mike Tomlin did at the end. Like, the whole joke was that the Steelers, always had some sort of diva wide receiver. I mean, look at the way Mike McCarthy was able to handle George Pickens, and not just handle George Pickens, but handle Jerry Jones, right? Like, or not George Pickens, excuse me, CD Lamb.
Mhm.
Able to handle CD Lamb, and not just handle CD Lamb, but handle Jerry Jones, and be able to just, like, what? There's a lot of ego here and there's a lot of outside noise, but you know what? I'm going to show up and I'm going to prepare this team and I'm going to coach this team. We're going to go win games.
Mhm.
And I think that's a lot of what the Pittsburgh Steelers need right now. Um, and I think they need someone who can actually do a good job of coaching up and training a young quarterback. They're going to be looking to get a young quarterback here soon, whether it's this year, or the following year. Like, that's going to happen. And if we look at the offensive coordinators that the Steelers have had, like, since Ben Roethlisberger left, it's no
Mhm.
wonder that, Kenny Pickett didn't develop into anything, right? It's no wonder that that Will Howard never saw the field last year, at any point, because, like, well, there was, wasn't able to be developed in any way, shape, or form, right? And
Mhm.
so I like it from that perspective.
Mhm.
um and I think that it's going to work out well. I think obviously he's going to break the trend of having Steelers coaches coach for 20 years, because he's just old enough that I don't think that's going to happen.
Mhm.
But I think the Steelers will experience success that they haven't experienced, probably in the last 10 years. Like, I do see them winning playoff games with him as head coach. I do
Mhm.
see them not just being a sneak into the playoffs last week of the season type team, but
Mhm.
eventually, not this year, but eventually getting to a, like, hey, with 3 weeks left, we've clinched the division, and now we're playing for our seeding type things, which we
Mhm.
used to see from the Steelers under Mike Tomlin, in the 2010s, especially the early to mid 2010s. And so
Mhm.
I really, really like the Mike McCarthy hire. I like the connections that he has. He's been coaching for so long. I think he's going to
Mhm.
assemble a really, really great staff. And
Mhm.
I think he's going to seriously help the development of whatever young quarterback they get within the next couple of years
Mhm.
to hopefully be the next face of the franchise at that position.
Mhm. I hear you there. I've definitely warmed up to the Mike McCarthy hire. I thought immediately, I'm like, no, no, what are we doing? Just because I think that it felt like we still will not commit to moving on to the next phase of what it is to be a team. And we've
Mhm.
just been holding on, holding on, holding on to the Mike Tomlin standard of over 500. And it felt like Mike McCarthy was just holding on to that standard. And that standard's not a standard that you want to be at. You want to win Super Bowls. And I think that the initial hesitation of, like, man, why can't we just commit to rebuilding and being bad for a minute and then being good? I think that I kind of rationalized it a little as who were the great candidates this year. It wasn't like you had a ton of great candidates this year. It's not like you had a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, like, offensive guru. Like, it seems like Clint Kubiak's good, but I don't know if he's that level of dude. And it doesn't feel like you had a Jim Harbaugh, a Mike Tomlin, a culture setter that is that level of culture setter either. So because of the candidates, I kind of warmed up to, hey, could this proven commodity who has Pittsburgh roots, who's going to have good vibes and know how to navigate this locker room and these personalities, I think I've warmed up to it. And I think that this could potentially be a guy who can lead us into, we might win 6 games, but it'll be 6 games that we have some good vibes going on. It might be some improvement in the offensive side and the offensive line in the scheme that we're doing that we feel good about. Whereas I feel like this last couple of years, it's been like, oh man, they've won games, but they're scraping by these games. They have a terrible point differential. They make it to the playoffs and then get knocked out clearly. And I think that I would much rather start off with a lower floor and do a Dan Campbell type of thing of you're bad, you're a little better, you're even better. Like it just feels like that's what I'm here for. And I'm here if Mike McCarthy's the guy to do it.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is because of every, what I already said about the, you know, getting someone who will be able to develop a quarterback well. I think it's important that you got an minded guy. And I think it's important that you didn't just go and get the young hotshot offensive coordinator. Because if you look at the way that has played out recently, like it hasn't worked, like I think the most success that has had is the Carolina Panthers head coach, who the Panthers won the division this year, but also they did it at 8-9, right? Like you know Mike McDaniel, it was fun. They had that one year they made the playoffs and they got bashed in Kansas City, right? And it's like okay, like other than that, look at all of these like yeah, let's get the young hip offensive guru guy. He's going to be the next Sean McVay, the next Kyle Shanahan. It's like it has not worked out. There has not been success there. So I did think it was important that you get an offensive guy, and I think it's important that you got someone that could prove that he could, develop somebody. And when you look at that, the options were Todd Monken or Mike McCarthy. And I already said everything that I had to say about Todd Monken. And so I actually really, really like the Mike McCarthy hire for the Steelers. I think and I truly mean this, I think if he had been hired anywhere else, it would have been an awful hire. But
Mhm.
I think that he was the perfect guy right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's why, and when we do these things, we do need to grade on a curve, right? There are certainly coaches that I think have higher upside. And there's certainly coaches that I think could be, especially in their position, like the situation they're going into with a higher upside could have more success. But I think that none of these positions got filled better than the Pittsburgh Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy in terms of getting the exact guy that the team needs right now. And that I feel like is the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is why I think that it was the best hire of this offseason.
Couldn't say it any better myself. I appreciate it, Jack.
You got it. All right, everybody. Well, we have finally talked through the head coaching carousel. Pretty wild one. That I'm sure we could have spent more time, truly breaking all these down and everything like that. But we wanted to have a little fun, play a couple of games, and we talked through it, got the gist of it. A ton of fun stuff coming down the pipeline as we are hitting the off season. Don't blink. The combine and the draft are just around the corner, which means that there's a lot of stuff still to do, and to talk about. We're really really looking forward to it. So hope you all have a great week, and we will talk to you next week. Have a good one, everybody.